We saw this week the news of Americans who were peacefully protesting back in 2021. They were peacefully protesting the death of children. They were outside of an abortion mill. And when the Biden administration got a hold of them, they eventually charged all of these people who were singing and praying outside of the abortion mill with violating something called the FACE Act, Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. And this week, a jury found these 6 pro-life activists guilty. And as a result, they are looking at upwards of 11 years in prison now. Completely peaceful, merely praying and singing. For more on this, I want to bring in Mark Houck. He's a Catholic father of 7. He was targeted by the FBI as well for being pro-life. He defended his son in front of a Planned Parenthood in Philadelphia. And he's also a candidate for Pennsylvania's 1st Congressional District. Mark, good to have you back with us, sir. Thank you very much.
Sure, Vince. Great to be with you.
Let's begin with this case where you've got these people who were merely singing, praying outside of one of these abortion centers. Their lives are being very much upended for that, aren't they?
Oh, for sure. But it's part of the experience. When we're going up against evil, that you expect that you're going to be persecuted for it. So, the civil disobedience that Paul Vaughn participated in and the others, and I've done it as well on my end, you're aware of that. And so, you're fully aware of the potential of all this. And, usually everyone's very calm about this and understanding of those First Amendment rights that we have. But,
yes.
Sadly, the Biden regime is targeting us for exercising those rights.
Right, and normally something that comes up every so often from prosecutors is this idea that they have prosecutorial discretion, that they can spend their time focusing on the actual threats to public safety, enforcing the laws that address the most imminent threats to the public. Do you think this rises to the level of being some sort of imminent threat to the public?
No, absolutely not. And frankly, the law is being misapplied. In my case, it came out, I had the same attorneys that defended me, Thomas More Society. It came out that the FACE Act only applies to the people in the building. It doesn't apply to people outside. So this has all been on the House floor with Ted Kennedy and a conversation with David Dornberger saying, does this apply? And he said, absolutely not. The FACE Act, as they wrote it, only applies to people inside the building. So once again, the federal courts are going to rule in their own opinion and make up their own laws.
This was, like I said, in 2021, this was Nashville outside of one of these abortion mills. I want people to hear what it sounded like as the Christians who were there were praying and singing outside. All right, so completely peaceful. And when you hear that, and we obviously you talk about the praying and the singing of church hymns, it strikes me that they really have it out for Christians who demonstrate.
Yeah, it appears as such, right? People of faith are targets of the deep state. I was as well, and we still are. So, it is a reality of the times we live in. And I keep saying to people, tyranny and dictatorships are coming when they wake sleeping children and arrest their father at gunpoint, just like they did with Paul, just like they did with me. So, we are being targeted, and the American people need to continue to vote in this upcoming election with that in mind, because this is really a referendum on the FBI, the Justice Department, and these unjust laws.
Yeah. Meanwhile, there have been a bunch of pro-life crisis pregnancy centers across the country that have been routinely firebombed, attacked, and terrorized. And we almost never hear about suspects being taken into custody for those incidents.
Well, that's because those suspects were at night, right? Isn't that what the Justice Department told us?
They did.
They really can't see and identify them. Whereas, they'll come under the cover of night to collect us, myself included. So, look, it's totally clear that what the agenda is, and that we as Americans need to vote with that in mind. And then,
Yes.
this is one of the reasons why I'm running, and I know others as well, because enough's enough. We need to protect these rights which our founding fathers established for us.
Have you come to know with these other pro-lifers who have been subjected to the cruelties of the Biden justice system?
Well, I talked with Paul Vaughn on the phone. He and I had conversation up to his election, dear God, excuse me, his conviction.
Yes.
But frankly, what's interesting. Yesterday was the anniversary of my acquittal, and then as ironic as that is, they had their conviction. I know Joan Andrews Bell personally. She's another one that's in prison right now, who is pending her sentencing. So some of these are friends of mine. I've met Lauren Handy. She's in prison right now. So these people are warriors. They're like Martin Luther King. It's an unjust law for them, and they're doing what they need to do to draw attention to these things.
But Martin Luther King, although he was imprisoned by the government for his acts, didn't spend 11 years in jail, did he?
No, but he drew attention to probably one of the biggest issues of our era, right?
Yes.
The civil rights issue. So, you got to do it that way. And these people, and myself included, see this as the civil rights issue of our time, with abortion and the preborn child's life. So, God bless them. As Paul keeps saying, God is in control, and, it's going to appeal. So we got to pray for that appeal, and they got great attorneys helping them.
Do you get the impression that they're keeping their heads up in the face of all of this? This must be very difficult to deal with for their families.
Well, I'll just give it to you in the lens for me. I was prepared to go to prison, and I knew that we were taking on the full force of the government, Vince, and I knew that you don't win when you go up against the government. I was surprised that I'm here talking to you right now.
Yes.
I would be surprised if anyone told me that I would be in this position. But you know what? God's grace was sufficient for me. And I think for these people that it is sufficient, that God is consoling them in ways like you and I, would not understand unless we're in that situation. So I think their heads are high. I think they're proud. I think they're proud that they're suffering for God and for the babies.
Yeah. Because you do know, even as you mentioned, Martin Luther King definitely knew. You know that if you are going to run afoul of the regime's dictates here and these laws that they impose on people who are just peacefully protesting, that there may be consequences. But the reality here is no decent person thinks that someone who's sitting in a wheelchair and singing a church hymn should be subjected to 11 years in prison.
No, this is what they're doing. They're sending a message to pro-life America. Why did they keep me in shackles and ankle shackles and chain me to a table for 6 hours? They want to humiliate. The process is the punishment, and they want to exercise and abuse the law and have this two-tiered system of justice.
They really chained you to a table for 6 hours.
Oh, yeah. After I was arrested, in belly shackles in front of my children and ankle shackles. And I was chained to a table for 6 hours with those same shackles, and they kept them on me as I was being released. So, again, it was just to humiliate. And, of course, that's, what Joe Biden and his goons and Merrick Garland and the Justice Department want to do. They want to come after those that are pro-life because this is their radical agenda.
It's demonic is what it is. Did you ever encounter any of the law enforcement officers who were handling you having a sense of shame about the way they were treating a peaceful man?
Look, most of those guys probably didn't know what was going on that day. They were just signing up for their usual raid so they can tick it off their list so they can be recognized as a full-blown FBI agent. The guy that knew the most was the lead agent. He was at my trial. And, one guy had the courage actually on the day of the raid to thank me and said it was a pleasure meeting me. So I sensed that he thought things were wrong and it shouldn't have happened. And they recognized, many of them that day, that this was we didn't get the bad guy today.
Yes. So now that you're running for Congress and you have experienced all of this, do you get the sense that the better days are ahead, or are we in for a lot of more difficult times as it relates to this issue and so many others?
Vince, it's the first time in the history that a government has been weaponized against its own people. So this is unprecedented. And everyone says, this is the most important election. Well, this might be. And so I think if Joe Biden is reelected, it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. I'm running so that, we can prevent that from happening to others. The guy that I'm running against, he's a Republican, but he's the only former FBI agent in Congress. He said nothing. He did nothing. He's part of the deep state. He's part of the Biden regime because he votes with him 70% of the time. So we got to get people like this out of office. And we have to have people going to Congress with integrity who want to serve the people and uphold the Constitution. Unfortunately, we have far too many people seeking careers in politics and wanting to become millionaires while they're there. So, this is what we're exposing, and we're exposing the record. And, we need more people willing to step up. It's not fun. I got to tell you, it's been the most toxic thing I've ever done in my life. But I'm willing to do it for the good of the republic because it's falling apart.
Well, God bless you for it. And it does make me wonder, is like, how is it that Joe Biden can keep calling himself a Catholic president? Because you'd think if he was, that he would spare a single word for people like you or people like these pro-lifers, these Catholics, these Christians in Nashville who just had their lives destroyed by his administration.
Well, look, the man is excommunicated as a Catholic. Like it's a de facto thing, even though, it's not formally talked about. He's publicly in sin. He's promoting abortion, which is a scandal, to the church, and it would put him in excommunication with the church. And so, this is the reality of it. But he doesn't care because the Pope told him to keep doing what he's doing. And sadly, we have a bunch of confusion, misplaced compassion all around. And Joe Biden is just another example of a Catholic who doesn't understand what it means to be Catholic. And Nancy Pelosi and the like, Ted Kennedy, all did the same thing before.
It's amazing. And so unfortunate. All right, Mark Houck, thank you as always, sir, for your time today. Really appreciate your insight into all of this tyranny, and thank you for serving your country. It means a lot. Mark, really appreciate your time, sir.